When my twin sister stepped through my door that afternoon, I thought I was looking at my own ghost. Her arms were mottled purple beneath the cardigan she clutched too tightly. Her voice came out as a whisper, and her little girl, my niece Tyla, clung to her leg like a shadow afraid of being torn away. Kate said she'd fallen down the stairs. I knew better, but before we begin, click subscribe, like this video, and tell me where in the world you're watching from. We love knowing how far our stories are reaching. Now, let's get back to this story. My name is Melinda, and my sister's name is Kate. We're identical twins, same face, same hands, same DNA written in the exact same sequence. But our souls? Those split the day we were born. I got the fire. She got the softness. I became the storm people stepped back from. She became the one they walked all over. People always said I was too much. Too sharp. Too cold. Too willing to burn bridges if it meant standing my ground. I didn't apologize for it. Kate apologized for breathing too loudly. She was the kind of gentle that the world mistakes for weakness, the kind of sweet that predators smell from miles away. When we were 17, a boy cornered her outside a party. Tried to force her into his car. She was crying, frozen, unable to scream. I wasn't there, but I heard about it the next day. I found him in the school parking lot, and I beat him so badly with a tire iron that he spent a week in the hospital. They called me violent. Called me unhinged. My parents looked at me like I was something they couldn't understand, something dangerous they'd accidentally created. You can't solve everything with your fists, Melinda, my mother said, her voice shaking. But I wasn't sorry. And I never would be. Kate begged me to stop. She said I was scaring her. That I was becoming the monster instead of protecting her from monsters. So I pulled back. I built a life away from the family, away from the drama. I got a job, an apartment, a quiet existence where my anger couldn't hurt anyone. And Kate? She got married. His name was Justin. Charming smile. Steady job. Polite to my parents. I met him once at their engagement party, and everything in me screamed wrong. The way he touched Kate's elbow just a little too firmly. The way he answered for her when someone asked her a question. The way his mother and sister looked at Kate like she was a temporary inconvenience. I don't like him, I told Kate that night. She just smiled that sad, resigned smile I'd come to dread. You don't like anyone I date, Mel. This one's different. He's dangerous. You think everyone's dangerous. And maybe I did. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe the fire in me saw smoke where there wasn't any. But I wasn't wrong. Over the next few years, I saw Kate less and less. She'd call sometimes, her voice bright and brittle, talking about Tyla's first steps, about Justin's promotion, about the big house they'd moved into with his mother and sister. Every word felt rehearsed. Every laugh felt hollow. I'd ask to visit. She'd say they were busy. I'd suggest meeting for coffee. She'd say Justin didn't like her going out alone. The excuses piled up like bodies in a mass grave, and I was too far away to dig through them. Until that Tuesday afternoon in July. I'd just gotten home from work, still in my scrubs from the clinic, when I heard the knock. Soft. Hesitant. The kind of knock that says I'm not sure I should be here. I opened the door, and time stopped. The woman standing on my doorstep had my face. But she didn't have my eyes. Her eyes were hollowed out, haunted, like someone had scooped out everything bright and left only shadows. She was thin, too thin, her collarbones jutting out like broken wings. The cardigan she wore was buttoned to her throat despite the summer heat. And Tyla. Sweet, 8-year-old Tyla stood beside her, silent and still, her hand locked around her mother's leg. "Hi, Mel," Kate whispered. "Kate." My voice came out steady, but my heart was a war drum. "What happened?" "I fell down the stairs." She tried to smile. It cracked like old porcelain. "I'm fine. I needed to see you." I stepped aside. She walked in like a ghost visiting the living, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to exist in this space. I closed the door behind them and locked it. Then I turned to my sister, my twin, my other half, my mirror image, and I said the words she'd been waiting years to hear. "Show me." That night, after Tyla fell asleep on my couch, I laid it out for Kate. "We're going to switch places." She stared at me like I'd suggested we burn the house down. "Mel, that's insane." "You can't." "I can. We're identical." Same face, same height, same voice when I softened mine. I leaned forward. "You stay here. Rest. Heal. Use my name, my apartment, my life. And I'll go back as you." He'll know. He'll know something's wrong." "Will he?" I asked quietly. "Kate, when's the last time he actually looked at you?" "Really looked?" Her silence was my answer. "You've suffered enough," I said, taking her trembling hands. "Let me carry the scars now." She cried herself to sleep that night. But when morning came, she didn't fight me. I dressed in her clothes, a faded floral blouse that hung loose on my frame, jeans worn thin at the knees, scuffed sneakers held together with hope. She taught me the rhythms of her prison, how Justin liked his coffee, where Mrs. Becca kept the cleaning supplies, how to avoid Kendra's landmine moods. I memorized it all. Then I took her ID, her keys, her wedding ring, still too tight on her bruised finger. The goodbye nearly broke me. Tyla wrapped her arms around my waist and wouldn't let go. "Don't leave, Mommy. Please don't go back there." I crouched down, cupping her face. She searched my eyes, confused by something she couldn't name. "I have to, sweetheart. But I promise, no one's going to hurt you again." "You feel different," she whispered. I kissed her forehead. "Maybe that's good." Kate stood in the doorway, watching her daughter cling to me. For a moment, our eyes met, two identical faces, two completely different fates. "Bring them hell," she whispered. I smiled. "I will." The house loomed at the end of the street like a mausoleum. White picket fence. Manicured lawn. Perfect exterior hiding rotting foundations. I walked up the driveway, every step deliberate. My heart was steady. My hands weren't shaking. Kate would have hesitated at the door. I didn't. I walked straight in. Justin sat on the couch, beer in hand, eyes glued to a sports game. He didn't look up. "About damn time." "Where the hell have you been?" "Out," I said flatly. Mrs. Becca emerged from the kitchen, her face already twisted in disapproval. "Look at your shoes. You tracked dirt on my clean floors." I glanced down. There was no dirt. Kendra appeared on the stairs, smirking. "Rough day, Katie? You look like hell." I said nothing. Just met her eyes until her smirk faltered. Only Tyla, sitting quietly in the corner with a coloring book, looked up. Her eyes widened slightly. "Mommy," she whispered, tilting her head. "You look different." I smiled faintly and crouched beside her. Mommy's stronger now. Justin grunted. Mrs. Becca turned back to the kitchen. Kendra rolled her eyes and disappeared upstairs. None of them noticed. None of them realized the woman who just walked through their door wasn't the one they'd broken. I stood slowly, taking in every corner of the house, the spotless floors Kate had scrubbed on her knees, the walls that had absorbed her screams, the spaces where fear lived like furniture. That house didn't know it yet. But hell had just moved in. The house felt like a tomb. Every surface gleamed with obsessive cleanliness, floors so polished you could see your reflection, counters scrubbed raw, air thick with bleach and something darker. Silence hung heavy, broken only by the tick of a clock and the murmur of the television Justin never turned off. Mrs. Becker ruled this place like a warden. She moved through rooms with cold efficiency, inspecting, judging, finding fault in invisible dust. I watched. I learned. I waited. Dinner that first night was a test. I'd made spaghetti, simple, edible. I set the plates down without ceremony. Justin took one bite and spat it back onto his plate. What the hell is this? It's bland. You forget how to cook. Kate would have apologized. Would have scrambled to fix it, hands shaking. I sat down and started eating mine. Tastes fine to me. His head snapped up. Excuse me? I said it tastes fine. I met his eyes. If you don't like it, the kitchen's right there. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Mrs. Becca's fork clattered against her plate. Kendra stopped mid-chew, staring. Justin's face darkened. He stood slowly, his chair scraping against the floor. You want to say that again? I think you heard me. He moved fast, faster than I expected for a man softened by beer. His hand came up, open-palmed, aimed at my face. I caught his wrist midair. The shock in his eyes was beautiful. You can do it yourself, I said quietly, my grip tightening until I felt his bones shift. The cooking. The complaining. All of it. I released him. He stumbled back, cradling his wrist, his face a mixture of rage and confusion. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. I turned to Tyla, who sat frozen in her chair. Eat, sweetheart. You need your strength. She picked up her fork with trembling hands. That night, I locked the bedroom door, something Kate had never been allowed to do. Justin tried the handle twice. Open this door. No. Open it. Good night, Justin. I heard him breathing on the other side, furious and impotent. Then footsteps retreating down the hall. Tyla lay curled beside me, her small body finally relaxed. Mommy, she whispered into the darkness. Are you really Mommy? I stroked her hair. I'm the part of Mommy that doesn't break. And I promise you, no one will hurt you again. She was asleep within minutes, her breathing soft and even. Downstairs, I could hear them, the low, urgent whispers of a family realizing their prey had grown claws. Something's wrong with her, Kendra hissed. She's never talked back like that, Mrs. Becca added, her voice sharp with suspicion. Not once in 6 years. I'll handle it, Justin growled. She's just testing me. I'll put her back in line. I smiled in the darkness. Later, I stood in the bathroom, studying my reflection. Kate's face stared back, gaunt, bruised, a ghost of who she used to be. But the eyes looking back weren't hers anymore. They were mine. Let's see how you handle a wife who isn't afraid, I whispered to the mirror. The war had begun. The next evening, I burned dinner. Not accidentally. I stood at the stove and watched the chicken blacken, smoke curling toward the ceiling, the smell acrid and deliberate. I served it with a smile. Justin cut into the charred meat, his face contorting. "What the hell is this?" "Dinner," I said sweetly. "The same kind you used to make Kate cook after you'd beaten her too badly to see straight." His fork froze halfway to his mouth. Mrs. Becca pushed her plate away in disgust. "This is inedible." "Then don't eat it." I sat down calmly. "Tyla and I will have sandwiches." I made 2 peanut butter sandwiches while they sat there, stunned into silence. Tyla ate hers slowly, watching the adults with wide, cautious eyes. The next morning, I was dusting Mrs. Becca's bedroom when I accidentally knocked her expensive perfume off the dresser. The bottle shattered, spreading French fragrance and broken glass across the hardwood. "You clumsy idiot," she shrieked, appearing in the doorway. "That was $200. "I'm so sorry," I said flatly. "I'll clean it up right away." I did. With Kendra's favorite silk scarf. When Kendra found it ruined and reeking of perfume, she came at me screaming. "You did this on purpose." "Did I?" I handed her a mop and bucket. "The floor's sticky now. Clean it." "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Clean it." I stepped closer. "Or do you need me to show you how Kate used to scrub on her hands and knees?" Something in my eyes made her take the bucket. I watched her scrub for an hour. "Mommy," Tyla whispered that night as I tucked her in. "Grandma's scared of you." I smoothed her hair back. "Good. Now she knows how you felt." Her small hand gripped mine. "I'm not scared of you. You never have to be, sweetheart. Not ever." Justin's paranoia bloomed like mold. He'd come home from work tense, watching me from the corner of his eye. He'd start to bark an order, then hesitate, unsure if I'd obey or humiliate him. I'd smile. Say nothing. Let him wonder. One night, he cornered me in the kitchen. "What's your game, Kate?" "No game. I'm just tired of being your punching bag." "You think you're tough now?" He leaned in close, whiskey breath hot on my face. "You think I won't put you back in your place?" I turned on my phone's voice recorder in my pocket. "Try it. Let's see what happens." He didn't swing. But he wanted to. I could see it in the tremor of his fists, the rage boiling behind his eyes. "You're not yourself," he muttered, backing away. "Something's wrong with you." "Maybe I'm finally right," I said. During the day, while they were out or distracted, I searched. I found Justin's betting slips stuffed in a shoebox, thousands of dollars lost, debts piling up to loan sharks with scary names. I photographed everything. In Mrs. Becca's closet, I discovered Kate's old medical records, reports of falls and accidents, injuries documented but never questioned. I took pictures of those too. In Kendra's room, I found text messages she'd screenshotted, mocking Kate, the doormat's crying again. Should we tell her she's pathetic or let her figure it out? I saved it all. Each piece of evidence was a nail. And I was building a coffin. Slowly, methodically, I was constructing their ruin from their own cruelty. And they had no idea. It happened at the grocery store. Justin had insisted on coming with me, his way of reasserting control. He criticized every item I picked up, loud enough for strangers to hear. "Those aren't the right brand. Kate, you never learn. Put it back." I kept walking. I said put it back. I turned in the middle of the produce aisle, surrounded by witnesses, and spoke clearly. if you want something different, get it yourself. I'm not your servant. His face went crimson. You ungrateful. Careful, I interrupted. People are watching. They were. A dozen shoppers had frozen, phones half-raised, sensing drama. Justin grabbed my arm, hard enough to bruise. Old habit. I didn't flinch. Let go. We're leaving. Now. No. Something in him snapped. He yanked me toward the exit, his grip vicious. I let him drag me 3 steps before I wrenched free and shoved him backward into a display of canned goods. The crash echoed through the store. She assaulted me. Justin shouted, scrambling to his feet. You all saw it. She's crazy. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911 right there, his voice shaking with manufactured distress. I smiled and waited. 2 officers arrived within 10 minutes. Justin met them at the door, playing victim with practiced ease. Officers, thank God. My wife, she's been acting erratic, violent. Today she attacked me in public. I want to press charges. The older officer turned to me. Ma'am, is this true? He grabbed me first, I said calmly. In self-defense, I pushed him away. But officers, there's something you should know. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder I'd prepared. These are medical records documenting 6 years of abuse. Broken ribs, concussions, bruises. All attributed to falls and accidents. I swiped through images. These are photos of injuries. These are text messages from his family mocking the abuse. And this, I played an audio file, is a recording from 3 days ago where he threatened to put me back in my place. Justin's face drained of color. The younger officer took my phone, scrolling through the evidence. His jaw tightened. Mr. Hartley, the older officer said, his tone shifting, is this true? She's making it up. These are hospital records, sir. With dates and signatures. The officer handed back my phone. Ma'am, have you considered filing a restraining order? I'm considering it now, I said. The officer turned back to Justin. Let me be clear. If we get another call from this address, we'll be investigating you. Any further complaints, any signs of violence, you'll be the one in handcuffs. Understood? Justin nodded mutely, his bravado crumbling. Mrs. Becca stood in the hallway, her face twisted with impotent rage. Kendra had gone pale, pressed against the wall like she wanted to disappear. The officers left. The house fell silent. Dinner that night was soundless. No one spoke. No one complained. They ate with their heads down, defeated animals finally recognizing a predator. I served Tyla extra dessert and met Mrs. Becca's glare with a smile. Later, alone in the bathroom, I stared at my reflection, Kate's face, my fire. That's one battle won, sister, I whispered. But the war wasn't over yet. 2 days after the police visit, I noticed the whispers. Mrs. Becca and Kendra huddled in corners, their voices dropping when I entered rooms. They exchanged glances heavy with conspiracy, their desperation palpable as rotting fruit. They were planning something. I waited. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. I was folding laundry in the living room when Mrs. Becca emerged from the kitchen, carrying a steaming bowl of soup with theatrical care. I made this for Tyla, she announced, her voice dripping false sweetness. Chicken noodle. Full of vitamins. Growing girls need their strength. Kendra appeared behind her, smiling too wide. It's Mom's special recipe. She added extra nutrients. I watched them set the bowl on the table. Watched the way their hands trembled slightly. Watched Kendra glance toward the kitchen, where a small medicine bottle sat barely hidden behind the flour canister. Sleeping pills. Crushed into powder. How thoughtful, I said, standing. Tyla, come here, sweetheart. The little girl appeared from her room, her coloring book tucked under one arm. Mrs. Becca pushed the bowl forward. Eat up, dear. Every drop. I picked up the bowl, studying it. The broth had a faint chalky film on its surface, amateur work. This does look special, I said, turning to Mrs. Becca with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. You both worked so hard on it. It's for the child, Kendra said quickly. I know. But... I tilted my head. You should taste it first, just to be sure it's right. You know, to check the seasoning. Make sure it's perfect for Tyla. Mrs. Becca's face twitched. That's not necessary. I insist. I held out a spoon. Just one taste. Prove to me how much you care about my daughter's health. The room crystallized into silence. Kendra's eyes darted to her mother. Mrs. Becca's jaw clenched so hard I could hear her teeth grind. What's wrong? I asked softly, stepping closer. It's just soup. Isn't it? Of course it is, Mrs. Becca snapped, snatching the spoon. Her hand shook as she dipped it into the broth. I watched her lift it to her lips. Watched her hesitate. Go on, I encouraged. Show us how delicious it is. She swallowed. Her face contorted immediately, the bitterness of crushed pills unmistakable. Kendra, you try some too, I said, handing her the bowl. Family recipe, after all. I'm not hungry. Drink. Something in my voice made her obey. She took a gulp and gagged, her eyes watering. I took the bowl back and poured it down the sink, every drop disappearing down the drain. Tyla, I called sweetly. Why don't you go play outside? She ran, sensing danger. I turned back to Mrs. Becca and Kendra, who stood frozen, their faces pale and slick with sweat. Next time you try to poison someone, I said quietly, make sure they don't see you do it. I laughed then, soft, cold, the sound of ice cracking under pressure. The mask I'd worn slipped just enough for them to see what burned beneath. Mrs. Becca stumbled backward, her hand clutching her throat. She's not our Kate anymore, she muttered, her voice hoarse. Kendra pressed against the wall, trembling. Then who is she? I smiled. Someone you should have never crossed. Someone you should have never crossed. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in the darkness, Tyla safe beside me, and listened. The house creaked and settled. Floorboards whispered under shifting weight. Voices murmured behind walls, urgent, desperate, plotting. They were coming. At 2 a.m., I heard it, the careful turn of a doorknob. The slow creak of hinges. 3 sets of breathing, trying to stay quiet. I kept my eyes closed, my body still. They crept closer, Justin's heavy footsteps, Mrs. Becca's labored breathing, Kendra's nervous shuffle. I felt their shadows fall across the bed. Justin whispered, on 3. Grab her arms. I moved. My fist caught Justin in the throat before he finished the sentence. He stumbled backward, gasping. I rolled off the bed, knocking Kendra into the wall. Mrs. Becca swung the rope at me, I caught it and yanked hard, pulling her off balance. In the chaos, I grabbed the lamp and smashed it across Justin's shoulder. He crumpled. Tyla, bathroom. Now. Lock the door. She ran, her small feet pattering away. Justin groaned on the floor, dazed. I dragged him onto the bed with strength born from 10 years of Kate's suffering. I used their own rope, binding his wrists and ankles to the bed frame. Wrapped tape around his mouth. His eyes went wide with terror. Perfect. I threw a blanket over him, concealing his identity in shadow, then positioned myself by the light switch. Help! I screamed into the hallway, my voice cracking with manufactured panic. He's lost his mind. He attacked me. Help! Footsteps thundered back. Mrs. Becca and Kendra burst through the door, wielding broom handles like weapons, their faces twisted with rage. Where is she? Kendra shouted. There. I pointed at the struggling figure on the bed. He tied me up. Stop him. They didn't hesitate. In the darkness, they descended on the bed like furies. The broom handles rose and fell. Again. Again. The sounds were sickening, wood against flesh, muffled screams through tape, the creak of bed springs. How dare you touch my daughter-in-law? Mrs. Becca shrieked, bringing the handle down hard. Psycho! Kendra added, striking wildly. I let them continue for 30 seconds. Long enough. Then I flipped on the lights. The scene froze like a grotesque photograph, Mrs. Becca and Kendra standing over the bed, weapons raised, chests heaving. And there, bound and bloodied beneath them, was Justin. His face was swollen, split lip bleeding, one eye already purpling shut. He stared at his mother and sister with betrayed, agonized disbelief. Mrs. Becca's broom handle clattered to the floor. No. No, that's your son, I said calmly, holding up my phone. The red recording light blinked steadily. And I captured every second. Kendra's face drained white. You set us up. You did this, I corrected, my voice cold as winter. You always do. You see violence, and you join in. You don't ask questions. You just hurt whoever's in front of you. I pressed stop on the recording and smiled. Now the world gets to see exactly who you are. 6 weeks later, the house stood empty. A sold sign swayed in the autumn breeze, the white picket fence already looking neglected. The perfect exterior that had hidden so much rot would soon belong to someone else, someone who'd never know what horrors those walls had witnessed. Justin awaited trial for assault and child endangerment. His lawyer had tried to spin it, but the evidence was undeniable, years of documented abuse, recordings, witness statements. The prosecution was seeking maximum sentencing. Mrs. Becca and Kendra had already been sentenced, 18 months for assault, plus probation. In court, they'd pointed fingers at each other, at Justin, at me. But the judge had seen through it all. This family, she'd said, her voice sharp as a gavel strike, created a culture of violence. You are each responsible. I'd watched from the gallery as they were led away, their faces aged by shame. Justice, it turned out, looked quieter than I'd imagined. Kate came back on a Tuesday. I met her at my apartment, her apartment now, technically, since we'd never officially switched back. She stood in the doorway looking nothing like the ghost who'd appeared months ago. She'd gained weight. Her eyes were clear. Her smile was real. Mel, she breathed, and we collapsed into each other. Behind her, Tyla burst through, laughing, actually laughing, as she ran to show me a drawing she'd made. Look, Aunt Melinda! It's us! We're superheroes! In the crayon sketch, 2 identical women stood hand in hand, capes flowing, a little girl between them. It's perfect, I whispered. That evening, after Tyla fell asleep on the couch, Kate and I sat by the window with tea. The city lights twinkled below, indifferent and eternal. "How did you do it?" Kate asked quietly, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. "How did you survive in that house? How did you make them destroy themselves?" I was silent for a long moment, choosing my words carefully. "I just gave them what they gave you," I said softly. "Only sharper." I turned their cruelty back on itself. They were so used to hurting someone weaker, they never imagined facing someone who wouldn't break. Kate's eyes filled with tears. "You saved us." "No," I corrected gently. "You saved yourself when you walked through my door. I just finished what you started." She reached for my hand, squeezing tight. Two identical hands, two different scars, one unbreakable bond. "Thank you," she whispered. "Always," I replied. Later, standing alone on the balcony, I watched the city sleep. Somewhere out there, Justin sat in a cell. Mrs. Becca and Kendra wore prison jumpsuits. The house of horrors was ash in memory. And here, Kate laughed in her sleep. Tyla dreamed without nightmares. I'd done what needed doing. Sometimes love is gentle, soft words and tender embraces. Sometimes love is war, calculated, fierce, and unforgiving. And when the world refuses to protect you, when justice turns its back and monsters wear human faces, a sister will. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please click on the like button, subscribe and share it. See you on the next one.